All right, welcome back. And in this video series, you're gonna learn how to pinpoint the signs of an abused transmission, and just to make sure that you don't buy a vehicle that has a horrible transmission, a bad transmission, okay, or even a transmission that's on its way out. So in this video, you're gonna learn how to see the early signs, the warning signs, to back away from the deal if possible, and even go ahead with the deal if it's possible, if the rest of the vehicle checks out okay. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to remove the transmission dipstick, and if you can't find it, just ask the owner or even a used car dealer to help you locate it. And we're going to remove that dipstick, okay? And what we're going to do is we're going to inspect the transmission fluid level. We're going to inspect for the condition of the fluid. And we're also going to inspect for a milky substance in the fluid. Yes, I said milky. Just like we talked about in the videos earlier in the engine section, this can also happen to transmissions. And let me kind of educate you on why that can happen and how that can happen to transmission as well. So here's how and why some transmissions may have a milky substance in the transmission fluid mixed in with it. So what happens is some vehicles, they have uh, the lines, the transmission lines that connect to the radiator. And how that happens for it to get milky is the radiator breaks, okay? The radiator breaks, and that passage that separates the radiator and the line breaks open, and the coolant flows into the transmission and mixes with the transmission fluid. So this is how and why the transmission fluid becomes milky. So, not all vehicles share it, but most of them do. But, as I'm seeing today, a lot of those car manufacturers are getting away from that because they see that that's a big issue. So that's what you're going to be looking for. You're going to be checking the levels, and you're going to be making sure there's no metal particles inside of the transmission. So what I want you to take a look at right now is the lower left image, okay? So remember, you have the dipstick removed. And what you're going to want to do is with your napkin that we talked about in the tools section, you're going to use your napkin and you're going to wipe that fluid off. And you're going to make sure that you can look at the napkin and see the condition of the fluid. So like I told you, the lower left is old, dirty fluid. Now, if the fluid is old and dirty, I'm not too concerned, but it's kind of, it's kind of tells you that that person hasn't been really, taking care of the transmission part of the vehicle, the maintenance side. So you still want to be careful, but I'm going to tell you about the things that you need to really look out for. Okay, so what you're going to want to do next is compare that with the clean transmission fluid, pinkish. And what you're going to want to do is look at these images, go back to it if you have to, and just compare. That is what clean transmission fluid is supposed to look like. So I'm not too concerned about how dirty it is, but it still gives you some history on, what that customer or that used car dealership has done to the vehicle. The old dirty fluid tells you, hey, they haven't done anything. And if the fluid is clean, like the one to the right, um, then that's good. That you should have a smile on your face, and that should make you feel pretty good. So at the top right, the image there, it goes to show you, this is the order, and in this area where you have new fluid, and it's going to look like that, and you're going to have the good fluid, it's going to look like that, and you have the okay fluid, and then you have borderline plain change fluid, and then you're going to have the burnt change fluid. Any fluid that looks like the burnt transmission fluid, You really won't recognize it because I've been in the business for so long and I've worked for a transmission shop, so I would see it all the time. And you want to kind of smell the fluid too, and you just want to smell it to see if it's burnt. You will know when the fluid is burnt. You can smell it. It's going to be a different kind of smell. And also, you're going to want to make sure that there's no metal particles. When you wipe that transmission dipstick on your napkin, you want to be sure that there's no particles, metal particles. If you see metal particles, I am telling you now, tell that person to have a nice day. You do not want to waste your time with these types of vehicles. Okay? This is a sign that that vehicle has a really, really bad transmission problem, and we want to stay away from things like that. So at the lower bottom here, right below this image that I just talked to you about, is the example of the milky fluid. So when you pull that transmission dipstick out, and you're going to want to be taking a look at it to be sure that it does not have any milky fluid coming off on the napkin. If you do, again, tell that person to have a nice day. I've worked for a transmission shop and I've seen these things happen, and that coolant that drains into the transmission fluid and mixes with it causes it to causes the transmission to go bad. So, like I said, you want to look out for all of these things that can possibly cost you money, and you just want to stay away from it. Do not allow anyone to convince you otherwise. Just like I've showed you in this video in the transmission section, you need to do exactly as I've shown you, and you will be okay. You will follow the way that I told you to check it. Go back to the video and make sure you check the fluid and match it to the good and the bad, and make sure that you don't have any particles. Make sure the fluid is not burnt, and you're good to go. So that's all for the transmission inspection portion of this video, and I will see you in the next video. We have tons of more great information for you. Okay, I see you in the next video, guys.